The Siege of Leningrad, 872 days of hell, 1941 to 1944. For nearly 900 days, Leningrad, one of the largest cities in the Soviet Union, was cut off, starved, frozen, bombed, and shelled. From September 1941 to January 1944, the city endured one of the deadliest sieges in human history. More than 1 million civilians died, not because the city fell, but because it refused to. This is the full chronological story of the siege, how it began, how civilians survived on almost no food, how the city continued manufacturing weapons under bombardment, how the road of life saved what remained, and how the Red Army finally broke the encirclement. A story of terror, starvation, resilience, and a city that would not die. Why Hitler targeted Leningrad. Leningrad was not just any Soviet city. Before the revolution, it was St. Petersburg, the imperial capital of Russia. It was the birthplace of Bolshevism and the cradle of the Soviet state. When Germany launched Operation Barbarossa in June 1941, 3 main goals were set: Army Group North, Leningrad Army Group Center, Moscow Army Group South, Ukraine plus Caucasus oil. Hitler's explicit order was recorded in military directive. Leningrad must be erased from the face of the earth. There would be no occupation plan, no political administration, no negotiations. The strategy was genocide through starvation. Leningrad had over 3 million civilians inside its boundaries. Hitler believed if this symbolic city fell, Soviet morale would collapse. Army Group North advances. Army Group North, led by Field Marshal von Lieb, advanced with speed. June-July 1941. Through the Baltics, German forces pushed through Lithuania, Latvia, Estonia they captured, Kaunas, Daugavpils, Riga, Tartu. Supported by Panzer Group 4, the Germans advanced over 600 kilometers in 6 weeks. Soviet forces fought desperately, but they were overwhelmed by superior German coordination, deep armored thrusts destroyed communication lines, Luftwaffe air superiority. By late July, German spearheads reached the Luga River, the last major obstacle before Leningrad. The Soviet response, Stalin issued a direct order. Leningrad must not be surrendered. Defend it to the last. The city was mobilized like no other. 3.1 civilian mobilization, hundreds of thousands of civilians, students, factory workers, teachers were put into the defense effort. They built 1,200 kilometers of defensive trenches, anti-tank ditches, wooden barricades, concrete firing points. Factories converted instantly. Kirov factory, tank parts, Ijora works, armor plates, women's sewing factories, ammunition belts. Children joined labor brigades to dig fortifications. 3.2 evacuation attempts in July and August. Around 400,000 civilians, mostly children, were evacuated by train or ship. But German air raids on rail lines and Finnish forces north of the city soon cut off escape routes. Finland, seeking to reclaim territory lost in the Winter War, advanced from the north. They recaptured Karelia Sphere River region areas east of Lake Ladoga. By early September, Finnish troops were close enough to cut northern supply routes, but they refused to storm Leningrad itself. Their goal was territorial restoration, not destruction of the city. Still, their presence sealed off the northern escape corridor. The breakthrough at Luga. After brutal fighting, German forces broke through the Luga defensive line in late August. Schlisselburg falls, 8 September 1941. The Germans captured Schlisselburg on the southeastern corner of Lake Ladoga. This town was the final link between Leningrad and the rest of Russia. On the 8th of September 1941, Leningrad was completely encircled. No rail lines, no highways, no land routes, only Lake Ladoga remained. That same day, German bombs destroyed the largest food warehouses in the city, at Badaevsky. Flour, sugar, grain, all burned to ash. The siege began with a firestorm aimed at starving millions. The city starves. By late September 1941, rations were reduced. By November, they hit the lowest point. Daily rations, November 1941, group bread, grams per day. Workers 250 grams, employees 125 grams. Children 125 grams, 125 grams of bread, about 4 bites, became the only food for many. Bread was mixed with sawdust, cellulose, cottonseed, cake, barley shells. People fainted in bread lines. Some did not wake up. Collapse of services. The winter of 1941–42 was brutally cold. Temperatures fell below -30 degrees Celsius. Water pipes froze. Sewage lines broke. Public transport stopped. Electricity was cut. Hospitals ran without heat. People fainted in bread lines. Some did not wake up. Collapse of services. The winter of 1941–42 was brutally cold. Temperatures fell below -30 degrees Celsius. Water pipes froze. Sewage lines broke. Public transport stopped. Electricity was cut. Hospitals ran without heat. People burned. Furniture, books, family heirlooms, wooden walls, just to stay alive. Winter of death, January 1942, the deadliest month. An estimated 100,000 people died in January alone. Most civilians died silently in their apartments. Trams stopped permanently, frozen in place. Thousands of bodies were collected daily from streets, staircases, and hallways. Coping mechanisms people began carrying. Saws for breaking ice, wooden sleds for pulling bodies, buckets for collecting snow, water. The city printed newspapers even when freezing to maintain morale. Tanya Savicheva's diary, perhaps the most painful civilian record, is the diary of 11-year-old Tanya Savicheva, who wrote, "Zhenya died on December 28th at 12 noon. Grandmother died on January 25th. Leka died on March 17th. Mom died on May 13th. Everyone has died. Only Tanya is left." This diary was later used at the Nuremberg trials as evidence of genocide. The Road of Life, Lake Ladoga, was the city's only lifeline. 8.1 attempts by water, autumn 1941. Barges evacuated civilians and brought food, but German aircraft bombed the lake constantly. Many boats sank with thousands aboard. Winter, the ice road. When the lake froze over, the Soviets created a supply route over the ice. This became the legendary Road of Life, Doroga Zhizny. Trucks drove at night, under shell fire without headlights in -30 degrees Celsius temperatures on ice that cracked under weight. By spring 1942, 550,000 civilians evacuated, 350,000 tons of supplies delivered. It was dangerous, but it saved the city. Leningrad fights back, factories continue production. Astonishingly, Leningrad's industry never fully stopped. Despite starvation, workers produced 1,500 plus tanks, 10,000 plus artillery pieces, 3 million shells, mines, ammunition. Workers often collapsed on factory floors, but were replaced by others immediately. Soviet counterattacks. The Red Army launched several major offensives. Sinyavino Offensive, 1942, Operation Iskra, 1943. The purpose: break the blockade. Breaking the Siege 10.1, Operation Iskra, January 1943. Soviet forces from Leningrad and the Volkhov front attacked simultaneously. On 18 January 1943, the corridor near Schlisselburg, the most critical point, was captured. For the first time in 500 days, Leningrad had a narrow land passage. Rail tracks were laid across this corridor within 17 days. Food finally reached the city in reliable quantities. But the siege was not fully lifted. The final liberation, the full siege, ended a year later. 11.1 Soviet 1944 Winter Offensive. In January 1944, Soviet forces launched a massive offensive. Leningrad Front Volkhov, Front 2nd Baltic. Front German Army Group North retreated up to 100 kilometers west. 11.227 January 1944, the siege ends. After 872 days, the city was finally free. Church bells rang. Crowds cheered in the snow. For the first time in over 2 years, silence replaced artillery thunder. Aftermath 12.1. Casualties. Historians estimate 1 million plus civilians killed, tens of thousands of soldiers, entire districts destroyed survival. Yet the city survived. Factories produced weapons until the final day. Schools operated in bomb shelters. Orchestras performed symphonies during bombardments. Civilians endured starvation, cold, and unimaginable suffering, but refused to surrender. The Siege of Leningrad remains one of the greatest tragedies and greatest acts of endurance in human history.